Hello, this is going to be a video lesson on the IB film production assessment, and more specifically about the production roles that students will have to declare as they submit their film production assessment. So there's some things that you need to think about throughout year one. You're going to have a number of production assignments. You'll see there's 6 of them. Now each one of these assignments is to get you accustomed to producing film videos, but because of the new assessment due to the course revisions to IB Film, instead of at the end of year 2 you submitting a 5-minute film, which has been done in years past, students will have to submit 3 sections of video production, and each 3-minute segment will involve a particular production role. And we'll have an emphasis on one specific role. So you'll have a 3-minute role dealing with one production role, a 3-minute role that has to do with another production role, and then you'll have a 3-minute narrative film that will be a 3rd production role. And so this is going to showcase your ability to employ the skills that are attached to those particular roles. So in year 1 you are going to have these 6 production assignments. In year 2 you'll focus on a 3-minute narrative film. That being said, students should start thinking about selecting a production role or 3 production roles in which they want to showcase their production abilities and process. And in order to showcase that, they need to plan ahead and start thinking about, well, if I do a production and I assume a particular role, I'm going to want to spend my time and energy in the pre-production process, the production process, and post-production process with that particular role in mind. And by doing that assignment, and I've done pre-production tasks, production tasks, and post-production tasks, and I've documented my process, I can now archive that and keep it filed away, so that when it comes time to create that 3-minute reel for a production role, you'll be able to acquire that information to create the video. But also there's a commentary piece where in each production role, the 3 production roles, you'll have 3 pages per production role to articulate your process and articulate what you did as that particular role with planning, pre-production, production, and post-production work. So, like I said, it's going to be very important that you keep those production roles in mind as you work through each of the production assignments that you can see here all highlighted. We'll have a me-montage assignment, a dinner with assignment, a chase sequence, mise-en-scène, diegetic, non-diegetic assignment, and then a reverse engineering assignment. And like I said, in year 2 you'll have your 3-minute narrative film. So what production roles do we have available to select? Well, if you go to the IBO here and you go to film and you go to what the course syllabus is all about, you're going to see that there are a number of different roles, and those roles are located right here. Within each of those roles you'll see that there's cinematographer, director, editor, that's the sound designer and mixer, screenwriter, and you can choose one other clearly defined production role that's not listed here. So essentially, you could choose 3 production roles from these 5, or 2 production roles from these 5, and then 1 other film production role. But you'll want to have that approved by your teacher, supervisor. Right? So those are the production roles, okay? And they're each clearly defined. The cinematographer is responsible for the camera and achieving artistic and technical decisions related to the framed image. Since photography is writing with lights, the cinematographer is also going to be articulating his or her vision through the use of light and its interaction with the camera. The director is responsible for the artistic and logistic aspects of the production. So this involves visualizing the script. Remember, the director is the auteur, the author of the story. Even though the screenwriter writes the story, the director is the author of the story. So it's his or her vision, right? So they visualize the script. This involves storyboarding. It involves having that clear singular vision so that it influences other mise-en-scène elements and the artistic choices associated with them, so costuming and makeup and hair and casting and all of those things, right? And plus the director's also working with all of the other production roles to make sure that there's a unified vision. The editor is mostly a post-production role. They're responsible for assembling the footage that was shot by the cinematographer, and selecting those particular shots, deciding what was good, what was bad, what parts of a clip were good, what parts of a clip aren't going to be used, constructing the film in order, right, to meet the artistic vision of the film. So that involves sequencing and juxtaposing shots and clips so that it expresses the story in the most effective way. Sound is responsible for not just capturing the audio, but also creating sound, whether it's Foley work, making sound effects, creating the music and score for the film. All right, so it's assembling all of those things. So that is really comprehensive as far as like pre-production, production and post-production, because they're doing things throughout. The writer, on the other hand, would be mostly pre-production, so they're responsible for writing the screenplay, updating the script, right? Supporting others in realizing and visualizing the script. So the screenwriter is going to work really closely with the director. Honestly, as a teacher and somebody that's been around the block a few times, I tend to suggest that people don't select the writer screenwriting for a production role, because it's so pre-production heavy. There's not much production and post-production work that you can really showcase. Plus the video portion of it doesn't necessarily highlight the writer, since the director has taken over the story. So those are the production roles. You can also go to SeminoleCinema and you'll go over to more. You'll see the production portfolio and you'll see each one of these roles. So if you go over to screenwriting, you can click on screenwriting, and we have that page that the page specifically for the writer role that we can go to, and the IV really breaks down what you can do as a writer, or what to consider. There's also a number of helpful links, videos, articles that will help you not just better understand the role of the writer, but also how to execute that particular role. And I do that with all the other production roles too. Directing, we have the roles defined, the IB page that defines it even more, all sorts of video lessons, so that you have a better understanding of what each particular role is. What we want to do is we want you to, you know, go in and learn about these particular roles so that you have an educated decision to declare what production roles you are going to be using. So we can suggest certain roles for these assignments, but we don't want to prescribe them. We want you to have the flexibility to be able to do that. However, let's say you decide on a production role and you don't really like it. Later on, you know, if you didn't execute the particular role yourself, you're going to have to go out and shoot additional footage and do some things on your own to showcase that later on. So let's take an example. Let's say if I am a student and I am interested in 3 different roles. I think I will choose editing as one of my production roles, cinematographer as a second production role, and then I'm going to be the director of my 3-minute film that I'll do next year. So as I do my me montage assignment, well, since I know that montage is an editing technique, I would approach the me montage in a way that when I do the me montage assignment, I am going to organize and approach it as an editor. So I want to, you know, pre-visualize what the me montage is going to be. I can sequence it ahead of time, even using storyboards and those types of things, right? I'll go out and shoot it, like all students will have to do, whether they're an editor, director, or cinematographer, whatever. And then I'll edit it. And then what I'll do is every time I work on it, I want to journal about my work, because then I'll have a reflection of my process, which will then have to be discussed in your commentary that you'll have to do about 1.5 years from now. So it's best to do that now while you're working on it, as opposed to trying to remember something that happened 1.5 years ago. So the journaling, you know, it's usually just 5 questions that I suggest. What did you do? How did it go? Were there any problems or issues? If so, how did you creatively overcome them or address them? And what do you have to do next? It's really those 5 questions. And if you do that, you know, I'm not, you know, really asking for more than just a paragraph, right, for that. And that's going to provide you enough information so that when you produce your film production portfolio commentary, the written portion of it, you'll be able to talk about that particular footage. Since you'll have the me montage video, then you can actually take a portion of that video and place it into that 3-minute reel that will involve editing. So the me montage would be perfect for editing. Dinner with is going to be something that you're using expressionism and expressionistic elements. So that might be actually a good opportunity for a cinematographer. So I would approach the dinner with assignment from a cinematography perspective, assuming my cinematographer role, and write it, produce it, you know, plan it, shoot it, edit it if you're working alone. Maybe you have a classmate that's editing it, and they want to do the dinner with assignment as an editor, because that's a role that they've declared for themselves. Great, you guys are working on the same project, but one is doing one role, cinematographer, while another is doing the other role, editor. See how that works? The chase sequence lends itself mostly for editing, but it could be it could work with directing, or it could work with cinematography, even music, because chase sequences often have music and sound effects to it. That could be a good sound designer production to work on. The mise-en-scène with lighting would, if I was the cinematographer, I would choose mise-en-scène with lighting as an assignment to showcase my cinematography skills. The diegetic and non-diegetic sound assignment has to do with sound, but you're still telling a story, so that could be something that you could use editing. Sound could be directing, but maybe not as strong for directing. Could be cinematography, but depending on the story, might not be the best for cinematography. So when you declare, we want you to really focus on 3 production roles, but 1 production role, remember, is not going to be used until the following year. And that's why, like I said before, I would focus on a director. If I was working alone, I would focus on my 3-minute narrative film in year 2 as the director. Not everybody does it, but that would just be my personal choice. But what you don't want to do is you don't want to cross over. So if I'm an editor and somebody else is a cinematographer, I'm not going to be able to, as an editor, I can't operate the camera because that's not my job. That would be my classmate's job. So everything that he does as far as the camera is concerned, that's stuff that he would have to, work on, pre-plan, execute, and document as he's acquiring his stuff for the production assessment. So when we go back to what is the end goal here, we need to find out what these, film production assessments look like. So you go to the link, that's the IBO link, that's just the overview for film. It's kind of like the home page, and this is where you're going to get any information or whatever that you need to be successful in IB film. If you go to assessment, you can click on assessed student work. And from here, since the film production is the production piece that you are going to be assessed with, look at FPO1, FPO2, and FPO3. And when you do that, you're going to see that this particular student chose editor, cinematographer, and writer. So when you look at it, you can look at the portfolio, which is the written portion of it, and you're going to be able to see on this PDF, there'll be a breakdown of that person's role as an editor, as a cinematographer, and as a writer. So look at how it's laid out, look at what the person writes, look at the images and the figures that the person incorporates into their paperwork, so that the examiner, who is your teacher, it is an internal assessment, so your examiner is your teacher, they're going to be able to see exactly what your process was, what your thought process was, what your decision makings, how that all went about, those types of things. You of course can talk about it, but images and screenshots and stuff help out as well. But remember, for each production role, your commentary is only limited to 3 pages each. So there'll be 9 pages in total. You'll see that there's a table of contents here, right? And we have clip 1 and clip 2. And those clips equal about 2 minutes of time. You really want to make it close to 3 minutes. 3 minutes is the maximum time. You really don't want to go under 2 minutes. Okay? So we have the editor, and we have a couple of clips. Alright, so we look at the editor portion of it. There's the talk, and then there's clip 1. Well, the clip 1 isn't embedded here because this is the actual document. What we can do is we can go and click on the actual video portion of the assessment, and you'll see exactly what that is. You'll also see that they talk about the clip, they talk about storyboards and stuff, because storyboards do help the role of the editor dealing with sequencing. It also informs what the editor needs to, incorporate as far as the shots and how that film language is going to be worked out. And then it continues. There's a second clip there, and then of course the student is going to discuss the process there. We even have shots of the NLE that the student was using as they were putting together the footage. All right, and also color grading. All right, and that is 3 pages. So that is all that student did for the role of editor. And then they moved to cinematographer. Right, with the cinematographer, they use different footage from different productions. Right, so you want to make sure that you have enough footage from each of the productions, or for each of the production roles, and you're going to pull that from your production assignments that are going to be happening this year. Here's the film reel. I'm not going to play the video on here because it'll lag, with the screen capture that I'm working with here. So I recommend looking at the film reels. FPO1, FPO2, and FPO3. Those are definitely things you want to take a look at so you know what the end picture is all about. What you're working for. This is the whole reason why you're taking the class, right? And again, this is the internal assessment, so if you click on the internal assessment, you're going to get that overall view. Remember, we are taking film SL, not HL. So it's SL, and here, boom, you got it. This is what you got to, these are the roles that you have to choose, right? And remember, this is what you're going to be assessed on. You have portfolio pages, which is the commentary, 9 pages total. You're going to have 3 pages per production film roll. And then you'll have your film reel. It's 9 minutes total, so it's 3 minutes maximum per production film roll. And one of the 3-minute sections has to be a complete film. So that is what we need you to look at and understand. And by the end of the week, we want you to tell your teacher what film production roles you want to assume this year. You're not going to have to say, hey, look, in the me montage, I'm going to be editor, if you choose editor. But when you select those roles, you're going to have to look at the assignments and see, okay, with those assignments, what would be best? I will tell you that the me montage, okay, you're going to make a short montage about who you are. And since it's montage, you have to incorporate editing techniques to tell the audience who you are. The dinner with, like I said, you're going to use German expressionistic elements and incorporate them in a dinner scene. So it's going to be a video production dealing with people having a meal. The chase sequence is exactly that. You're going to have somebody chasing someone or something else. And so the whole video is going to be about chasing something, and yet there are a couple of moments where you're going to have to incorporate a special door or whatever, like a portal, where it's going to take that person to a different place. This is a really good assignment for continuity editing, and could be parallel editing as well. All right, the mise-en-scène with lighting is where you're going to take an environment that you know and totally transform it. So that's going to use lighting, set design, those types of things to totally change the environment, and hopefully with what you shoot, it's going to showcase how that environment has changed. Okay, the diegetic and non-diegetic assignment, you're going to have a sequence, you're going to create a scene that just uses the diegetic sound, or the sound that's from inside the world, and then you're going to actually create that scene again using non-diegetic sound, which would be sound from outside the world That would be sound that the characters inside of the film wouldn't hear. So in other words, like in Jaws, where the girl's swimming and there's a big shark and we hear the dun dun dun. She doesn't hear that music, but we, the audience, hear it. And then what does that do to us? It builds tension. We know that the shark is ready to have some lunch. And then the reverse engineering assignment is where you are going to take a section from a film and recreate it. So really, depending on what you do in the reverse engineering assignment or what you decide to replicate, is definitely going to influence what role you would assume. If you're going to do a chase or something like that, it might involve editing. If it's a drama, it might be more of a cinematography type assignment. So keep those things in mind, what the assignments are, and then also keep in mind what the different roles are. Okay? Research the roles. Best thing to do is just go to the Seminole Cinema page or the IB page, right? Here, film production roles. They'll say, hey, exploring film production roles right down here. You can click on that hot link and it takes you right to what those roles are and finding more information about it. If you want to go to Seminole Cinema, you can just go put your cursor over more, down to production portfolio, and then you have all these sub-menus that will provide you additional information, as well as all sorts of articles and videos and tutorials about what to do as those, if you're assuming those particular roles. And that's it. If you have questions, make sure you talk to your teacher, ask your teacher some questions. Again, we want you to be prepared and submit something that's really strong at the end of year 2. So in order to do that, we want you to be prepared. So we want you to keep in mind, when I do this assignment, I'm going to have to pull material from the production assignment that I've just done to showcase my abilities. We understand that a lot of you guys haven't had much experience with filmmaking, and so a lot of this is going to be new. But wouldn't it be great to be able to pull some stuff from things that you've been doing all year long, as opposed to just plugging through the assignments, not saving anything, and then between year 1 and year 2, now all of a sudden you have to acquire a bunch of additional footage for each of the production roles. You're not going to have time to do that in the coursework because you're working on other assessments as well, like the textual analysis and the cultural piece as well. So these production tasks are going to be really like a great opportunity for you to acquire the footage you need for the film production assessment, which is 40% of your overall IB film grade. Like I said, if you have any questions, contact your teacher, and your teachers are here to help you through it. They're all very experienced, so they'll be able to give you some additional insight or help you come to a good understanding of what's expected of you. Also, make sure you attend any live lessons that are associated with the production task, so that you know exactly how you're going to be assessed and what the examiner is going to expect to see when you do your work. That's it. Thank you.